Found out my parents left everything to my brother. I thought I was the backbone of this family. Turns out, I was just the bank account. I don't even know where to start. I spent my entire life making sure my family was taken care of. Bills? I paid them. Groceries? I bought them. Emergencies? I was the one they called. When my brother wanted to throw a lavish wedding, I funded it. When he needed help with his new business, I drained my savings to support him. I did everything, and I did it without question. I thought I was doing what a good daughter does, taking care of the people who raised me. But then I found out the truth. Everything my parents owned, the house, I still pay the mortgage of, the bonds, I personally financed, the investments. I add to monthly, every single thing with their name on it was written into their will. And my name? Nowhere. It all belonged to my brother. I moved out years ago, but not because I wanted to. My parents are African Americans and we've been living in the States for over 20 years now. In my family, daughters aren't meant to stay. We're raised with the understanding that one day, will belong to another household. A husband's, not our own. My brother, though, he never had to leave. He grew up knowing the family home was his birthright. He got married, and instead of building a life elsewhere, he simply brought his wife into our parents' house, as if it was always meant to be theirs. No rent, no bills, no responsibility. Meanwhile, I worked. I wasn't just building my own life. I was holding up theirs. When my parents wanted to buy that house, I was the one who signed the mortgage. When bills piled up, I was the one who made sure they were paid. Every expense, the repairs, the maintenance, the food they put on the table, it all came from me. Yet somehow it was never mine. I wasn't allowed to claim it, wasn't allowed to call it home. Not truly. Because a daughter's place was temporary, while a son's place was forever. I told myself it was fine, that at least my sacrifices meant something, that maybe in the end, it would be recognized. I never asked for anything in return, never questioned why my brother, a grown man, still relied on me to fund his life while living rent-free. I didn't even blink when I paid for his wedding, ensuring he and his wife had their perfect day, while I could barely afford one for myself. Because that's what daughters do. That's what first children do. That's what I do. But deep down, I think I always knew. If I wasn't giving, it didn't matter. I should have seen it coming. The signs were there, clear as day. Like how my parents never once called the house mine, even though I paid the mortgage. Or how, when relatives came over, they probably introduced it as our son's home, even though my name was the one tied to every financial responsibility. Or how, anytime I struggled, anytime I hesitated to cover yet another bill, they'd remind me in that gentle but firm way, family always takes care of each other. Or how if my brother messes up, like he always does, my parents would expect me to clean up after him with that confident tone. You're my first child. You should know that if he is running, it is left to you to chase him. It is up to you to bring this family together, and running from your responsibilities isn't going to do that. But somehow, I still let myself believe I was part of that family, that my sacrifices meant something. Until the day I heard the truth. I was standing in my parents' kitchen, running through payments like I always did, calculating costs, making sure everything was covered. Because who else would? That's when I heard my mother talking in the living room. At first, it was just background noise, until I heard my brother's name. We just want to make sure everything is settled before we're gone, you know, so he doesn't have to worry. I froze. My stomach twisted, and I stepped closer, listening harder. The house, our savings, investments. It's all his, of course. We don't want any confusion later. I felt like I had been punched in the chest. I had spent years keeping this family afloat, keeping this house from slipping into foreclosure, keeping my brother's lifestyle, his vacations, his wedding, his comfort, all funded, keeping their so-called investments and even investing for them. And yet, everything was his, not mine, never mine. I could feel my pulse in my ears as I walked into the room. My parents turned to look at me, smiling like nothing was wrong. I stood there, gripping my phone so hard I thought it might crack. What did you just say? My voice was steady, too steady. My mother blinked, caught off guard. What do you mean? I swallowed, my throat burning. The house, the accounts, everything. You're giving it all to him. A beat of silence. Then my father sighed, like he was tired of me already. Sweetheart, you know how things are. He's the son. He's the one who will carry the family name. I let out a laugh. Sharp, humorless. So I get nothing? You'll always have a place here. My mother reached for my hand, like that was supposed to be comforting. We're not abandoning you, but you'll get married eventually. Your husband will provide for you. There it was. The thing I had heard my whole life. You'll belong to someone else. Not here. Not to this home. Not to the family I had sacrificed for every single day. My father continued. Besides, you already have a safe, secure job. You're a lawyer also. You are already financially stable, but your brother is still figuring things out. You should help him as his older sister. Help him. He's 29 for crying out loud. Married and has a child coming along. Help him till when? I built everything I have from scratch by myself without help in a world that discriminates against my black skin and a male-dominated occupation. Yet, after all I've done, it still isn't enough. Then it never will. As if to hammer the final nail on my coffin, I turned to my brother, waiting. Just waiting. For him to say something. To acknowledge that this was unfair. That I deserved more than this. But he didn't even meet my eyes. Just shrugged. Like none of this was his problem. Big sis, "You know, I didn't ask for any of this," he said shamelessly. Of course, he didn't ask for this, but he just took everything. Accepted it all like it was all expected. I opened my mouth to argue, but then his wife spoke first. "You shouldn't stress yourself out over this, Rosalind," she said casually, like we were discussing the weather. "Besides, we're having a baby soon. And this house needs to stay stable. You've always been the backbone of the family. Nothing's really changing." I stared at her, at my brother, at my parents, all of them looking at me like I was supposed to just accept this. Like I was supposed to nod and say of course, and continue paying the mortgage. Continue funding their lives. But in that moment, something cracked inside me. I just felt tired. Tired of bending over backwards to seek approval from people who would never give it. Tired of being an ox and a cart for a family that cares nothing for me. Tired of being a fool. For the first time, I realized I was never part of this family. I was a resource, a credit card, a sacrifice, nothing more. I don't remember leaving the house. One moment, I was standing there, watching my parents justify my erasure, watching my brother shrug like this had nothing to do with him, watching my sister-in-law tell me, "Nothing's really changing." And the next, I was outside. Cold air hit my face, but it did nothing to ground me. Nothing felt real. I had spent my entire life proving my worth to this family, only to find out I was never meant to have any value. I was never meant to stay. I was never meant to matter. All I could think about were the moments leading up to this. Years and years of sacrifices, of giving until I had nothing left. The long nights of overwork, making sure there was enough money for my brother's wedding. The countless times I said yes when my parents asked for help, even when I barely had enough for myself. The holidays when I saw my brother open lavish gifts while I got something cheap, something quick. An afterthought. The way my parents never asked me how I was doing. Only what I could provide. And now, the final proof that I was nothing more than a tool. I kept thinking back to the sacrifices I've made for this family, and I felt angry. I felt stupid. Even till now, I still suffer from gastritis from overworking. I took more cases than I physically could handle leading up to 120 hours working weekly, just so I could pay off the countless debts to my name. And when I fainted that day in the office, I just knew my body was breaking down, and yet I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. The doctors called it gastritis. Stress-induced. Aggravated by late nights, skipped meals, and an endless stream of responsibilities that were never supposed to be mine. And every time I thought of slowing down, every time I hesitated before transferring yet another payment, they'd reminded me, family always takes care of each other. Every time I hesitated, every time I mentioned cutting back, my mother would hold my hand gently, saying, "You're our blessing, sweetheart. You were meant to take care of us." As if it was my purpose. As if it was supposed to be a privilege to destroy my future for them. And I let them say it. I let them convince me that this was normal. I let myself feel like I mattered each time I paid for yet another expense. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of silence. No calls, no messages, no begging for help. I don't know what I was expecting. For them to realize I matter, or for them to realize they're wrong. But when I didn't receive any call, I felt I can finally move on. But then my phone rang. I looked and it was my mother. I don't know what I was expecting, but I picked up the call regardless. The second I picked up, my mother's voice came through, coated in frustration. "Sweetheart, what happened? We were at the store, and your card kept declining." I blinked, barely processing the words. "My card? Yes. We were picking up things for your sister-in-law. You know, she's pregnant. She needs all these vitamins and special groceries." And suddenly, it wouldn't go through. I exhaled sharply, because I cut it off. Silence. Then my father's voice, sharper than before. "You can't do that. We rely on that card." I laughed. Short, bitter. "That's the problem. Rosalind, are you still angry about the will thing? We've given you enough time to act out, and this is important. It concerns your brother's child." "A life," my father said. Funny how he made it seem like I was acting out. I just hung up the call. The next day, the real desperation started. My parents called again, but this time, they didn't start with small talk. The mortgage company called. My father's tone was cold-clipped. "They're asking where this month's payment is." I waited. "Well," he snapped. "Well what? Fix it." My patience snapped. "It's not my house." The silence on the other end wasn't just shock. It was anger. They had spent years molding me into their personal financial safety net, and now I had finally stopped being useful. They didn't know what to do without me. My dad continued, "What did you say? Are you trying to get your parents kicked out? Where do you expect us to stay?" I stayed silent. Then I heard my brother, "Big sis, I know you're hurt, but this affects mom and dad. Do you want them out on the streets? Also, you've been preparing for the birth of your nephew. Don't tell me you want him out on the streets also. It's your house anyway. Fix it. I've paid over half the mortgage. Complete the rest. And as for the baby, that's your kid, not mine. Take care of it." This time, my parents hung up the call. I thought they finally got the message. I thought they'd leave it at phone calls. Maybe some guilt-tripping texts. Maybe a few desperate messages. I was wrong. Because 2 days later, my parents showed up at my workplace with my 8 months pregnant sister-in-law. I was halfway through a meeting when my assistant rushed in, panic in her eyes. "There's a scene downstairs," she whispered. I already knew. I walked into the lobby, and there they were. My parents. My brother's wife cradling her stomach dramatically, looking ready to faint. My mother spotted me first. "How could you do this to us?" she demanded, loud enough that heads turned. Her voice trembled, not with sadness, but with carefully crafted outrage. My father shoved a stack of invoice receipts toward me. The bills I had stopped paying, the money they now owed. "You made it big, and now you've abandoned your family to starve? Without this family, You won't be where you are now. You'd probably still be in Africa now struggling. Or, do you think lawyers in Africa survive just as a lawyer? We gave up everything for you to have the life you do now. Your brother dropped out of school just for you to continue. He worked till he fractured his hands just to pay your student loans. But you, when you made it big, you abandoned this family that gave up everything just to take care of you. Wow, I knew I wasn't favored, but I didn't expect it to be like this. Yeah, we're in the States, but that's cause my grandparents sold some of their belongings to send my dad and his then new wife my mom. They gave up everything? That's ludicrous. Cause I remember studying so hard that I got a scholarship, and for my family expenses and the families I had to work 2 jobs on top of school to pay them. I even gave them my rent and stayed with a friend for 3 months once cause of my brother's business. As for my brother dropping out of school, he was dismissed for inappropriate behavior, and that worked out well in my favor after all. My parents would never have agreed for me to go to school otherwise. His hand fracture also was because he got involved with the wrong gang and friends. I was almost killed trying to save him at the time. And now, watching all these, I finally realize where I really stand. It's like all the hope I have for this family shattering. My stomach twisted, not just because of what they said, but also because of the way everyone around us was staring. The whispers, the way my coworkers exchanged glances. They were turning my workplace into a battlefield. I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears, my fingers curling into fists. I had spent years letting them manipulate me, letting them guilt-trip me into giving, into sacrificing, into carrying the weight of their financial mess. But this, dragging their pregnant daughter-in-law to cry in front of my colleagues, handing out literal invoices for my salary like I was their personal bank, that was the end. I turned to the security guard standing near the reception desk. Escort them out. My mother gasped. My father stepped forward, voice rising. You wouldn't dare. But before he could finish, my sister-in-law clutched her stomach dramatically, wailing like she was about to collapse. My baby. They're hurting my baby. Gasps echoed through the room. And suddenly, I wasn't just a daughter who had abandoned her family. I was now the villain hurting an innocent, pregnant woman. The next day, on coming to work, something felt off. My coworkers avoided eye contact. Conversations stopped when I walked by. My assistant, usually chatty, kept glancing at me like she wanted to say something but was too afraid to. I finally confronted her about it. She hesitated, then sighed. People are talking. I frowned. Talking about what? She shifted uncomfortably. About your family. About what happened yesterday. My stomach sank. Even after security escorted them out, the story was still spreading, twisting, distorting, turning into something else. And somehow, despite them barging into my workplace and causing a scene, I was the villain. By the end of the week, the whispers had turned into warnings. A message popped up on my screen. Supervisor wants to speak with you. I already knew. I walked into his office, sat down, folded my hands in my lap, waited. He didn't waste time. I've heard some concerning reports about personal matters interfering with workplace professionalism. I inhaled slowly. You mean the situation with my family? He nodded. It's becoming a distraction. The company has an image to uphold. We can't afford public spectacles. I clenched my jaw. Public spectacle. Like I had planned for my parents to storm my workplace. Like I had invited my 8 months pregnant sister-in-law to collapse in the middle of my office and wail about her baby. Like I hadn't been dragged into this mess against my will. I understand, I said carefully, but I didn't start this. They did. He sighed, tapping his fingers against his desk. Regardless, the company would prefer you resolve your personal issues. Quietly, the unspoken warning hung in the air. If I didn't shut this down, if I didn't get my family under control, my career would suffer. At this time, I could expose the truth, the whole truth, but I wanted to leave them that last dignity. They're my parents after all. So I had tried to keep this quiet. I had let them scream at me, let them paint themselves as the victims, let them spread lies about me inside my workplace. But now, they were threatening the one thing I had left, the one thing I had fought for, built for myself without their interference. I had held back out of guilt, out of some lingering sense of obligation. But this last thing, this was too far. I thought they'd give up after the office spectacle. That after dragging me into public humiliation, after twisting the story at my workplace, after guilt-tripping me at every opportunity, they would finally realize they had lost their hold over me. I was wrong, because if they couldn't shame me in private, they'd do it in public. It started with a video, a carefully edited compilation of bills, payments, and every single expense I had ever covered, framed in a way that made it look like I had abandoned my family in their time of need. The video also included sacrifices everyone in the family has made for me. Sacrifices I didn't appreciate. My mother was crying, listing the expenses that were suddenly left unpaid. My father's voice breaking, talking about how their daughter had made it big and forgotten the people who raised her. My sister-in-law's dramatic tears, clutching her pregnant belly, saying she even called security on me. On the baby. Who does that? And then, the final shot. Me in the lobby of my office, telling security to escort them out. The captions? Brutal. Our daughter abandoned us after everything we did for her. She made money and now pretends we don't exist. She kicked out a pregnant woman. Her own sister-in-law. How heartless can you be? I barely had time to react before the comments flooded in. Thousands. Some sympathizing with them, calling me selfish, cruel, a disgrace to my upbringing. Some attacking me, demanding I fix this, telling me I should be grateful to my parents for raising me at all. And those are the better comments. Others are worse than these. How evil can a daughter be? Someone like this should be punished in the 18 layers of hell. Some worse but none better and none to my favor. I cried just going through the comments alone. How could my parents do this? How could they out their child through this? Is it all for the money? Am I even their daughter? After all, a lion, no matter how fierce, would never eat its cubs. Do they think this would force me to continue taking care of them or repair the relationship their exclusion broke? And then came the part that broke me. They sent it to my clients. The video was bad enough, but then they emailed it to my clients, the businesses I worked with, the partnerships I had built. The message? We just wanted you to know the kind of person you're working with. How they got the emails, I don't know. But the results? Devastating. The consequences came immediately. One by one, the cancellations started. Contracts terminated. Deals pulled. Companies suddenly distancing themselves from me. All because my own family had weaponized their lies against me professionally. And now, I wasn't just fighting for my independence. I was fighting for my career. I wanted to leave them be, to figure it out myself, but now, I am Go6JG to clear my name, even if it means dragging them through the mud. I took everything, every statement, every invoice, every screenshot of them emailing my clients to destroy my career. Proof of how my brother dropped out from school. Proof of how he really broke his arm. Proof that he could actually work even with that. Proof of how I've been funding their life. Proof of his 3 failed businesses I paid for and the true extent of their extravagance. And I did what they had done to me. I posted it. My post wasn't emotional. It wasn't begging for sympathy. It was cold, factual, undeniable proof. For years, I funded my family, believing I was supporting them out of love. But when I found out I had been cut from the will, when I discovered I had been paying off a house that was never meant to be mine, I finally understood the truth. I was never family. I was only a resource. Bullet points, screenshots, transaction records. Every claim they had made was immediately dismantled. Not with opinion, but with hard financial proof. And then, just when I thought I had uncovered everything, I found out my father had accessed my emails. Not just once, repeatedly, behind my back, without permission, trying to see what I was doing, which clients I was talking to, what legal steps I was taking against them. He was doing it to confirm how much I was making, to compare it to how much they could demand without me refusing, and to be in total control of my finances. That was it. No more warnings. No more hesitations. I pressed charges. My father was arrested for unauthorized access and fraud. And just like that, they lost everything. I expected my mother to call. What I didn't expect was her sobbing through the phone like everything was crumbling around her. Please, sweetheart, please. Just drop the charges. Your father didn't mean to. He was just trying to understand what was happening. I said nothing. She continued, voice breaking. We took down the videos. Everything. I promise we won't do anything else. We just need this to stop. We didn't expect it to get this big. It was just meant as a warning. I closed my eyes, exhaling slowly. They had destroyed my reputation, threatened my career, my stability, my future. And now, when faced with consequences, they wanted mercy. We're family, my mother whispered. Families don't do this to each other. You've made your point. We're struggling now, and we just need your help to fix it. I let out a bitter laugh. Struggling? Yes, she sounded desperate. Your sister-in-law entered premature labor because of the stress. She's in the hospital right now. We're falling apart. And we just need you to. She faltered when she heard my voice. Cold, even, unshaken. I wouldn't have taken it this far if you hadn't involved the only solace I had to pay back all the debt. The only place I worked for myself. Silence. I could hear my mother breathing. Like she wanted to argue. Like she wanted to find a new angle to pull me back in. But there was none left. They had made their choices. And now they were paying for them. I hung up. No more explanations. No more conversations. No more family. I won't lie. Cutting them off wasn't easy. There were moments of guilt, of anger, of grief over what could have been. But in the end, they made their choice. And now for the first time in my life, I was making mine. But I can't help but wonder sometimes, did I take things too far?
Sweetheart, you know how things are. He's the son. He's the one who will carry the family name. Besides, you already have a safe, secure job. You're a lawyer also. You're already financially stable, but your brother is still figuring things out. You should help him as his older sister. Big sis, you know I didn't ask for any of this. You can't do that. We rely on that card. Rosalind, are you still angry about the will thing? We've given you enough time to act out, and this is important. It concerns your brother's child. A life. The mortgage company called. They're asking where this month's payment is. Well, fix it. What did you say? Are you trying to get your parents kicked out? Where do you expect us to stay? Big sis, I know you're hurt, but this affects mom and dad. Do you want them out on the streets? Also, you've been preparing for the birth of your nephew. Don't tell me you want him out on the streets also. You made it big, and now you've abandoned your family to starve? Without this family, you won't be where you are now. You'd probably still be in Africa now struggling, or do you think lawyers in Africa survive just as a lawyer? We gave up everything for you to have the life you do now. Your brother dropped out of school just for you to continue. He worked till he fractured his hands just to pay your student loans. But you, when you made it big, you abandoned this family that gave up everything just to take care of you. You wouldn't dare. I've heard some concerning reports about personal matters interfering with workplace professionalism. It's becoming a distraction. The company has an image to uphold. We can't afford public spectacles. Regardless, the company would prefer you resolve your personal issues quietly. Our daughter abandoned us after everything we did for her. She made money and now pretends we don't exist. She kicked out a pregnant woman, her own sister-in-law. How heartless can you be? How evil can a daughter be? Someone like this should be punished in the 18 layers of hell. We just wanted you to know the kind of person you're working with.